Hello, I'm Constance Grayson and I'm your host for your Italian painting adventures. Assisi is one of the cities that you will be visiting while you're with us in Umbria. Assisi is a city located on the west side of Mount Sabasio in sort of the northern central part of the Umbrian region of Italy. There have been people living in Assisi since the year 1000, 1000 BC, when Assisi was settled by the Umbrians, a tribe of peoples who lived on the Italian peninsula pre-Roman Empire, and it is from the Umbrians that the region of Umbria got its name. In 225 BC, the Romans took over the region of Assisi, and Assisi became a Roman city-state. You can still see Roman ruins in Assisi to this day. Now, Assisi continued as part of the Roman Empire for a good number of years, and in the late 12th century, Francis was born, who ultimately became Saint Francis of Assisi, patron saint of Italy. And Saint Francis was born about 1150, 1160 AD to a very wealthy merchant family. And as he became a youth and a young man, he was, a typical Italian wealthy young man. But one day he was in church praying, and he was actually in front of a cross that had been done by the artist Ciambui, who, and from this cross, Francis heard God tell him to go and repair my church. And at first Francis thought that God was instructing Francis to physically repair the church. But then Francis ultimately concluded that God was aghast at the medieval church practices of indulgences and various corrupt practices within the church, and he was urging Francis to put a stop to those kinds of things and to repair the church in that way. So Francis heeded God's call, gave up his worldly goods, stripped himself naked in the main piazza and gave his clothes to the poor, and began a life of poverty, chastity, obedience, and prayer. And he ultimately founded a group of monks known as the Franciscan order, and that are in existence to this day. You will see them from time to time throughout Assisi. St. Francis died in 1226 AD. He was canonized or made a saint a couple of years after that. And it was at that time that this basilica was begun. It was completed in about 1253, and it's actually 3 levels. The basement, if you will, is the level on which St. Francis's remains are interred. And then levels 1 and 2, the upper and lower basilica, the Basilica Inferiore and Basilica Superiore, are home to beautiful frescoes. Now, many of these frescoes we've seen. This is one, St. Francis preaching the Sermon to the Birds. We've seen this replicated over and over again. There's some debate. It was originally attributed to the artist Giotto. There's some debate about whether Giotto or Cimabue did this, but regardless, or some of their students, but regardless, that dispute's not going to hamper our enjoyment of the frescoes. This is a beautiful facility. In 1997, an earthquake severely damaged the basilica. Almost everything has been repaired at this point in time, although 2 monks and 2 art historians were killed in the basilica a day or 2 after the main earthquake, when an aftershock hit the basilica. between churches, and there are lots of churches to see in Assisi, but between churches you will enjoy the street scenes of Assisi. It's an old city that has a lot to be seen, whether it's people watch or wander. The architecture is beautiful. There's one church, and the church we're looking at is to the left. It's the Church of St. Clare, another saint of the same era as St. Francis. But these are the flying buttresses that are part of the Gothic architecture style that hold that cathedral wall in place. St. Clare was also a wealthy young woman, and she heard about what Francis was doing, and she followed his example and founded an order of sisters that are called, since her death, the Sisters of the Poor Clares. They're still in existence. In fact, the church has a convent attached to it, and you can tour this church, and it's well worth touring. But it is closed at the lunch hour for the sisters to enjoy their daily mass. Here is a statue you will see of St. Clare and St. Francis. Now, interestingly enough, they were both involved in religious orders and religious life at a contemporaneous period of time, yet they only met once or twice. This statue is just outside the small church that was built over St. Francis's boyhood home. Now, directly ahead is the church of a different sort. This is the Temple of Minerva. That was a Roman temple, the facade of which was maintained. And on the inside, it was converted hundreds of years ago to a Christian church from the Roman pagan temple. But the facade was redone in the Baroque period, and there are cherubs and angels and over decoration, and comparing the stern facade with the beautiful but quite elaborate internal decor is a bit of a shock. But this is sort of the main piazza in the old part of Assisi. There are lots of shops and gelaterias and places to sit, and there's always something going on here to watch. Speaking of sitting, there's always something to sit and paint or sketch, and there are places to grab a bench or a park wall, or there's many places along the way that you can make yourself comfortable for the day. The good thing about Italy is that Italians adore artists, and they respect artists or people who are making art. So they enjoy watching the process, and this is not new to them. People have been making art in Assisi for thousands of years. You won't be the first artist to perch there and do a watercolor. Or you may choose to shop or to wander through the shops. Now, this is a pasticceria that's worth going into just simply because the displays of pastries and sandwiches, the paninis, are absolutely gorgeous. Here's another shop that sells the more traditional foodstuffs. Here we have pastas. This particular pasta, strangozzi, is Strangle the Priest. And those are fun. They're fun gifts to bring home too. It's just fun to see them, and they're great fuel, if you will, for future memories or future art projects. Assisi has its share of shops that sell beautiful religious statuary and rosaries. It also has its share of religious kitsch. You can buy, Franciscan monk sandal keychains if you choose. They're actually sort of cute. Again, back to the regional foodstuffs, you'll see those along the way. A shop that's extremely interesting where they sell vinegars that have been aged. And I didn't know that you aged vinegar like wine. And vinegar can get quite expensive as it ages, just like a fine wine can. Whole new thing for me when I first went to this shop. The fruits and vegetables in the markets that you'll see. I mean, you can say no more. You can eat your way across Italy. And the flowers. Italians love flowers. Shopkeepers, homeowners, they take great pride in having a manageable amount of flowers that they take care of. And you can always explore the menu. You can always explore the menu and try to determine what it is you want to order from the menu. We have, except for one meal, nothing has a fixed menu price. But part of the whole experience is to learn the local culture. So we hope you will join us in May or September 2018 for your Italian painting adventure.